You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome in on a Tuesday. What a gorgeous afternoon we have working out there. Back into the 80s and then maybe the lower 90s coming up later on this week into the weekend as well. But I know everybody feels differently. We talked about this yesterday, a different hop in the step. And listen, I know that you got to start slowing down because you got to prepare for game number 2. And maybe this all ends up being a mirage. However, yesterday, as we had talked about, you have to talk about what took place on Sunday. And it was a dominant performance by the Colts, of which I'm assuming, even if you pick them to win, like I look at our selections at 1075thefan.com. And while I picked them to win and I picked them to cover, I didn't think it was going to be a game of domination like that. That's what you witnessed. And when I talk about it being necessary, the feel good, as I mentioned, you could just walk around Sunday morning and it didn't feel the same. Now, it's not going to be an instant elixir or a cure-all. But what it does, it will give people reason to go, maybe this could be different. Maybe Daniel Jones is going to be different for this team. Yeah, what about this defense? Did you see that they blitzed and moved people around? You see what they did with Kenny Moore? Now, everybody thought that Alec Pierce was going to be erased, and he got a look down the field. How about that secondary? Getting after the quarterback, 3 sacks. And what they did in the process, too, is you made the Dolphins, they now are in the crosshairs of the storm. When you think about it, you could flip a coin before that game started, and this could be the Colts right now. They're probably not on a national level because they don't get enough interest and or care unless something really big like the quarterback retiring is going down. Or hiring somebody from ESPN is happening midseason. That's when the national folks take heed. But you could have had role reversal, and there would have been nothing worse for the beginning. I had Greg text me yesterday and said, you know what? Daniel Jones had tremendous satchel because he knew he was going to go out there and he had to perform, and he cut it loose because he knew that first incompletion or that first bad quarter or a bad game would lead everybody to boo, would lead everybody down a path of negativity. And instead, he completely flipped the script. So that's what I'm talking about, this game being necessary. And why you wanted to see that, why that had to happen. I don't know if it translates at all to the remainder of the season. I mean, they may get waxed coming up on Sunday afternoon. I see no reason watching Denver in week number 1 as to why the Broncos should wax them, even going back to last year. Had Jonathan Taylor not dropped that ball before crossing the goal line, things could be different. We could be viewing this team massively differently at this point now. But that's what happened. That's how it went down. And we spent an off season going, oh, yeah, here we go again. Great. Rick Venturi said it felt like a new dawn. I don't know if it's a new dawn, but I do know that it's the absolute best start imaginable for this team. And I wish I could tell you, I wish I could predict greatness that is consistent. A relative game against the Broncos coming up on Sunday. The same can be said on the road in Tennessee in week number 3. I can't do that. But what I can tell you is there was nothing more necessary. We haven't seen anything as necessary as that around here in a long time, because I think we all understand how normally it ends with this football team is for the bad. I was talking to David Wood in his office a little bit earlier, and he was asking me about the game, and I was explaining to him. I was I feel like I have a finger on the pulse. I know most of you people listening were there as well, but it just kind of felt different. Sure as hell we had fun at Bullseye. We had fun in Touchdown Town. We always do. You get me in any event, and we're going to have some fun. Just turn me loose. And then when that event has something to drink, you can even further turn me loose. You get me the turbo. You get turbo power. So we're always going to have fun together. Make no mistake about it. But I don't know if you felt this way, but to me, it was different at the beginning of the game. It kind of felt like, is this really the start of the season? And in large part, that was because of the non-believers, those that are skeptics, those that were ready. And somebody had mentioned this to me. This is going back to Sunday night. I think his name, and I may not get this right, Todd Boyle. Now, Tad Boyle is the head coach, I think, at Colorado in basketball. It's not Tad Boyle. He didn't send me that. It may have been Todd Boyle. But I recognized the Boyle part. He said, you know what? You need to, I think it was something about eating massive amounts of crow or owe somebody an apology. Hey, listen, I'll be the one to determine when I owe somebody an apology, because sometimes I'll say some jackass-worthy things. But in that particular point of Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, I don't think I owed anybody an apology. And you also have to get it right, because if you remember, where I got it completely wrong was I thought you were just going to waltz into this season with Anthony Richardson. I go all the way back to the end of the season and the start of the year. Change of the calendar in 2025. Remember, why are we all here if Richardson's not moving forward? We all know how this is going to end. And the Colts, at least through 1 week of the season, are doing what they should do. And really what they haven't done in a while. It's been smarter than everybody else around here. They're the ones that look incredibly football savvy and intelligent with Daniel Jones. It's the rest of the world, including me, that doesn't. And not that I was thinking, well, you can't play Daniel Jones. I was thinking you have to play one guy, and if you don't play the other guy, not because I'm a believer in him at all, I was ready to reset the entire organization. But through week number 1, they have found something, again, through one game, that they feel they can build off of. And you know me, I'm all for the enthusiasm. Everybody thinks, for some reason, which is incredibly odd to me, that I just want to come in here and piss and moan and gripe and whine for 3 hours Monday through Friday. That is the last thing that I want to do, because it sucks. I hate the slap rock attitude. And if there's nothing else that can really express that to you, define that for you, it's the Pacers of this past season. And I got news for you, too. I'll feel the same way about the Pacers even without a season of Tyrese Halliburton and the bon voyage of Miles Turner. I'll feel the same way about that group, because I have a belief in that group. I still have a belief in those guys. I have a belief in that staff. I believe in Rick Carlisle. I believe in Kevin, in Chad. And I sound like I'm going to break into song, and I'm not. But I believe in them. And that's, to me, what the Colts have to do. And that's why Sunday was significant. Because you have to start somewhere. You have to start that path at some point. And my belief is that you could not have found? You seriously, if you were going to put together a blueprint of, all right, the most perfect situation in week number 1, how would you have detailed that? What would have been written? How would you express? And then ask yourself, how much of that actually took place? It has been few and far between since you've been able to come off a game and feel that good about something. So even in 1 week, I mean, hell, you may throw a parade if it's 2 weeks, but even in 1 week, it was worthy of excessive conversation. We deem it worthy excessive criticism, so, why not excessive positivity? That was my thought on yesterday. That was my thought going into the season. But no, getting back to Todd Boyle, I believe. Todd Boyle said I owed an apology. If there's anything that I want to double back on, clearly it does not look like I'm going to be accurate about a reset of the organization. And there were a lot of factors in that, but the biggest factor was, after 1 week, I look at Lou Anarumo and go, oh, man, I hope this is real. Because you could talk about Daniel Jones, who was absolutely fantastic. The offense, fantastic. Shane Steichen putting together that, fantastic. But the most refreshing portion of the Colts through 1 week of the season, no matter the ability of the Miami Dolphins, would be a defense where it was almost like you were watching something altogether new. You want to know why? Because you were watching something altogether new. You've been through 2 prior regimes where you kind of put your hands up and go, man, here we go again. Sit back in this zone, kind of hang out. Just let guys push it down the field as far as you can. And I'm assuming that a lot had to do with Miami and Tua being Tua, and especially as things went longer into that game, it kind of seemed like some dudes were having issues and check it out, and the lack of depth and an offensive line. Listen, Mike McDaniel's team has some issues. But the good thing about the Colts is in that game, they took advantage of every single issue. And for me, the most refreshing portion of it was watching a defense that just didn't sit back and wait for something to happen and then respond to it. I think we all would agree, if you never have to hear the bend but don't break description of your defense ever again, hell, that would be too soon. They had guys that went out, and you could tell, and I know the fellows on the morning show talked to Kenny Moore yesterday morning. I thought that you could see a refreshment, if you will, of the guys that have been here. It was like, oh, we're doing this for the first time. Wow, I'm getting utilized even more. Maybe more work for me, but man, I'm doing some things different. It's refreshing. I thought that they were, and I'm talking about the veteran guys on this team, not the new guys on the team, but the veteran guys on the team, I felt were as refreshed as the fans were watching that product out there, watching the calls, watching the schemes, seeing a form of aggression you haven't seen. That was as impressive of a first performance as you can ask for. And certainly there are going to be pitfalls along the way. You look at Charvarius Ward going into concussion protocol. That's problematic. The one thing you don't hold your breath on around here would be injuries of any kind, because if it wasn't the Indianapolis Colts or the Indiana Pacers, we would be called the Indianapolis injuries or the Indiana injuries. Because that's normally what goes on around here. I don't think there's any nickname out there called the injuries. I don't know what the logo would be. What would be the Indiana injuries logo? Some guy on like a gurney with his leg up in a cast or something like that, or on crutches. Some dude on crutches.
The Jackass logo with the skull and the crutches and stuff. I think that's what it would be.
Yeah, the Indiana injuries. I don't know what you're going to do about that. But I do know what the Colts decided to do about their situation to start the season. And I felt that was really important. More into that, Greg Rakestraw, who I bet was as happy as anybody, even with somebody calling in and thinking Greg was me on the postgame show on Sunday, because he got to talk about that game with you. The postgame show, glorious for the first time in a while. I'm sure Greg's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about that. And through the first 3 weeks of the high school football season, and almost for some teams around here getting into it, in terms of full-scale football competition. Hey, listen, I am shouting out Indiana State. By the way, James, see if you can get a hold of Kurt Mallory. I want to get Kurt on here, the head coach of the Sycamores. I know that they're viewed as fresh meat coming up on Friday, and probably rightly so. And I know that a lot of things that go on at Indiana State is determined by what you're going to get in return, what the fee is going to be, because they have zero money. I wish I could help them. I don't know if they look to me for massive benefits. I will do this for them. I will endlessly promote Indiana State. Seriously, when I get through with Terre Haute, Indiana, you'll think, wait a minute, did you go to college in San Diego? What? Where'd you go to college? That place sounds great. I will endlessly promote Indiana State University and Terre Haute, Indiana. But unfortunately, the finances really don't dictate me helping them out a great deal. Let me get Kurt on this show. Yeah, the price that you pay to have to go and probably get your drawers pulled down coming up on Friday. I will say this, and I know how he feels, and we won't get an opportunity to talk to Don coming up this week on Friday because he's going to be prepping with a pregame show down in Bloomington. But yeah, the Friday thing does kind of stink. I heard actually Don and Buck both talking about it at the end of the game on Saturday. So you've got all the high school stuff going on, and not that this is going to have a massive impact on, who's going to go to the IU game or whatever, but I think Bloomington North and Bloomington South play down in Bloomington on a Friday night while IU's having a game. But, you can only do what you can do in this situation. And the same can be said for Kurt Mallory and Indiana State. Just go over there and try to do your best, and you know that the check is going to clear on the other side, which is nice. I have a great deal of respect for Kurt and what he tries to do, because I know this to be true, and the same thing can be said for the basketball program as well. And what Matt is trying to do, that is as hard a gig as you're going to find anywhere. And in terms of basketball, you may be able to, like Josh Schertz did a couple of years ago, strike it rich for one exciting season. And I mean, hell, look at how I view that exciting season. They go to the final game of the NIT, which I didn't even know existed before they went to the final game of the NIT that year. I thought, wait a minute, they still do the NIT? But hey, I'm excited about it. And it was exciting. But you are going to get a season like that occasionally, and with the way things work out in the transfer portal and their lack of money and everybody else having money, if you can basically, if you're going to average double figures and look decent and certainly have a skill that is noticeable, maybe shooting the three, maybe some athleticism, maybe getting busy, maybe you don't need the basketball and you're working on the boards, somebody's going to offer you a crap load of cash. And you're going to have defectors. So I am awaiting that season again, but that is a tough gig over there. For real. Listen, you're living out your dream and coaching at that level. And nobody is going to go, oh, boo-hoo for you from that, because a lot of people are not going to be able to live out a similar dream to do what they wanted to do. Unfortunately, for some, it is work, and it's not like this, fun work, but it's actually work. So you have that going for you, but it is a tough gig all the way around. I endlessly promote, though, James. I wonder how much my promotion is worth. You think? You think anybody out there, think any parents go, hey, I just heard JMV talking about Indiana State. That sounds like a place where I need to send my son or daughter. Think anybody?
I'm sure there might be one or two.
You think if I could get in the ear of any of these really good players around here as parents and say, hey, you know what, Terre Haute?
I don't know if I'd go that far for football recruiting for purposes.
Or basketball.
Or basketball.
Yeah.
You might have more success with basketball than you would with football.
I have and always will love Indiana State, and that will never change. So what I cannot give to them in good faith financially, I will always give to them in promotion around here. And I do feel fairly certain that I am the lone voice out there that's doing that. Indiana State and IU coming up on Friday. We're going to be at Coach's Tavern downtown. That's a Bud Light Blue Friday. Did you know you could win Broncos Colts tickets on Friday? We had our initial Bud Light Blue Friday at Taylor's this past Friday. It was outstanding. You guys brought it. And we shall do that again coming up on Friday. Me and Tommy S., Tommy Sutton, you know this to be true. When Tommy S. and I went to a Pacer playoff game, the Pacers won a playoff game. And when we get together, we talk it up, have a hell of a time. Coach's Tavern, that is coming up on Friday, Bud Light Blue Friday. And our Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots, week number 2 of the NFL, our picks, that will come to you live from the Ale Emporium in Fishers, which is near Geist and most notably near one of the greatest Goodwill locations of all stinking time. Thank you. So if you see me next week, James, in an entirely new wardrobe, you know why. Wait a minute. Where did he get that Lacosta? Is that Calvin Klein he's wearing? That medium Calvin Klein is a snug fit on the fella right there. Where did he get that? Shout out to the Geist area Goodwill. Now, we'll be up there with Brent Halverson, and it's going to be more important because the Thursday night game, I believe this week, right, includes the Packers of Green Bay. Actually, it's a good one on Prime Video. How much is Prime Video? You know, I don't have it. I've gone to bars and stuff to watch the Thursday night games the past year. How much is Prime Video? Should I just go ahead and go, all right, I'm done? Add a little bit because I already pay like $5,000 a month on watching TV and watch 4 channels. What else I could add here? Anything?
According to this, I believe this is the Bing Search AI thing.
Yeah.
Standalone subscription is $12 a month.
$12 to my. Didn't I tell you I paid? Was it over $300 the last time I told you? Oh, $300.
I think so. Yeah.
Was it?
Something insane, and you only use like 4 channels.
Yeah, and I actually told everybody that I would be understanding if you just whip my ass somewhere because I pay that much because I'm really stupid. What's another $12, right? I think I'm paying for Hulu. Is that what that Charlie Sheen documentary is? We all have got to see that.
There's a Charlie Sheen documentary?
Oh, yeah. There's a Charlie Sheen documentary out there right now. And I'm going to watch that Chad Powers thing with the Manning brothers that produced that too. What's the Chad Powers? Glenn Powell is the actor. Chad Powers? Is that Hulu?
That might be Hulu. Isn't that based off the Eli Manning
I think
thing?
It is. Yeah, it is. I'm going to watch the Sheen documentary. All right, we shall take a break. Eddie Garrison's got you later on tonight with the Fever and the pregame, too. Shout out to Eddie, who has a birthday on the inbound as well. We'll do that. We'll get a report from Denver. His name is Mike Kosmiter.
Nope, Nick Kosmiter.
Nick Kosmiter. Almost got it there.
And he is actually now at 5:15. The Broncos had some news today about a new stadium, so he has to interview the Denver mayor. So he will be on at 5:15 now.
Does he not understand the level of importance of this show does not include having to speak with the stinking Denver mayor?
We'll have to explain it to him.
So, the Denver mayor. Now, do you think it would be long and discombobulated like you were speaking to ours, you think? Maybe. I don't know. You think the mayor will come up to him and shake his hand and look over the top of his head like he did to me? Hey, yeah.
Well,
who else is out there?
The laws in Denver are a little bit different here, so he might be a little more spaced out. Who knows?
Who else is out there? There he is. All right, quick break. We'll come back. It's Rakestraw on the other side. I've got bullseye passes, too. An outstanding bullseye eventgroup.com Colts VIP tailgate presented by Hayes & Sons Restoration on Sunday. I've got passes for you this Sunday. We start that today as well. Shout out to Kyle Kinnett, who's got another great one working. I talked to Kelsey Murphy, the celebrity chef, on Sunday. Skids and Laura Steele down there on Sunday. I've got passes for you. You got to listen to win, though. Stream the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. 239-1070, the number if you want to call. 317-239-1070 on the text line. Lob them in here with 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Danny? Every day.
Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
The Broncos in town this weekend. This would be Rocky Mountain High from John Denver. Hey, by the way, the American Gladiators premiered 36 years ago today. This date back in 1989. You guys have a favorite character? American Gladiators? Give me Zep. Hey, look at that picture. That is not me right now, is it? Look at. When was that? Lord have mercy.
I think that is from well over a year and a half ago.
That guy on the left would absolutely eat that guy on the right there. Seriously, that's like 80 more. Look at that, 80 more pounds. Can you do a side-by-side? Lord have mercy. Let's do that really quick. Let me pose. Can you do that and send me a side-by-side?
I got you.
Good. I look like the... No wonder I look like the guy from Teen Wolf back then. Why does that pop up there? That should be eliminated.
I don't know why that has been stuck there like that for so long. It's just whenever you're not on remote, that's what pops up in that frame.
Wow. Now, Zap or Sonny? Give me Zap or Sonny. That's my favorite all-time American Gladiator. On the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, I'm assuming from Southern Indiana growing up, he was also a big fan of that television program. Greg Rakestraw joins us now. Did you have a favorite?
I've been thinking about this, either ice or turbo. Was there a lace that was involved?
There was a nitro, and there was a Gemini, and there was one. I'm trying to think. There was one in particular. Malibu was on, I think, the initial episodes, and it looked like that he was in docking but got beefed up.
There was, they did a 30 for 30 on the Gladiators, but it kind of got kind of weird, and most of the former Gladiators did not want to talk about the experience. So it was kind of one of the rare 30 for 30s that was, to me, a little bit lacking.
Zap was in a feature film. She had a role alongside John Ritter in the film Skin Deep. Skin Deep in the late 1980s. Zap.
Nice.
Greg Rakestraw is with us. I'm assuming, I mentioned this earlier knowing you were coming on the show, that was probably the most outstanding postgame show you have hosted in a long time with Colts fans.
I figured you'd kind of go that direction as well, so I started thinking about my favorite shows. I would say the Packers win in 12, the Bruce Arians game, the first game that Chuck was not the head coach while he was battling leukemia. The Peyton Manning return game in 13, the come-from-behind playoff win before Snowmageddon against the Chiefs in 13, and that's probably about it, to be honest with you, because the results have not been overly great. Or, the last time the team was good, we were dealing with COVID, and, we had like 1/6 of the building was full, if that was the case. So it's been a minute since the post-game show was that fun.
That's Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll get to 3 weeks of the high school football season with Greg and his thoughts coming up in just a second. But about the defense, was it more surprising or refreshing the way you watched all that go down with game number 1 of Lou Anarumo?
I think it's the overlapping circles of both. I thought they'd be better. I wasn't sure they'd be that much better. And again, Miami, like most teams, is right in the middle of the pack, is about as average as you can be. I think Denver is slightly better, so we'll see if the Colts can back that up into week number 2. Obviously, we got to see what Travarius Ward's status is going to be, for the game on Sunday as well. But that was maybe I'll go with more refreshing, just because that's the word that comes to mind. And we had a caller. We had 21 callers of them, actually, and actually 2 of them thought that I was you, by the way. I'm sure
that is so awesome.
But 2, and we'll head there in a minute. But I had one caller made a great one about saying you would never see the Colts blitz. If you think about it, in the Bill Poley and Tony Dungy days, it was cover 2. In the Matt Eberflus and Gus Bradley days, it was some iteration of that. So it's not just the last defensive coordinator, but it's been most of the last 25 years that the Colts have been, all right, we're going to get pressure with our 4 guys. And if you have a combination of Freeney and Mathis, you can do that. The Colts have good pass rushing depth, but it should be noted of their 3 sacks, 2 are by defensive backs, in that game on Sunday. So pleasantly surprised, very refreshed in watching how it unfolded on Sunday.
I thought the veteran guys on that defense also looked refreshed because they were doing something so different than what they had seen, even if you go back to Eberflus years.
Correct. And you would see Kenny Moore blitz out of that nickel situation more under Eberflus than you did, from Gus Bradley. But guys that have been here a long time, we're tired of thinking about that streak in terms of not winning on opening day. And again, it's been 5 years since a playoff game. It's been 7 years since winning a playoff game. It's been 11 years since hosting a playoff game. So now there's other streaks that we can kind of focus on that obviously will take 16 more weeks that look something as good as in week number 1.
It's interesting. It could have been, Greg, a flip of a coin here. The Colts could be that team, I guess, that would be in large part ripped by everybody after the first game of the season, as Mike McDaniel in Miami is being ripped right now. But do you think what the Colts did in that 33-8 win was more a product of the Colts or a product of the Dolphins just really in every facet being so bad?
I think both things can be true, but I think it's probably more on the Colts because, the Dolphins didn't really have an idea. They kind of thought what they would see from a Lou Anarumo defense, but weren't exactly sure. I'm sure they weren't exactly sure how Daniel Jones was going to look. But you got to remember that so much of the Dolphins' success versus lack thereof has been really simple. Has Tua been playing or not? When we saw them here in October, they didn't have a quarterback, per se. That's the reason why guys like, Hill and Waddle, weren't a factor. Here, they had them. Here they had Tua. And those guys had 70 combined yards receiving and averaged less than 10 yards a catch. So to me, well, yes, I think there are clearly some issues they got to deal with in Miami. And, yeah, you kind of get the feeling that this might be the end of Mike's run in South Florida. I still think it was much more what the Colts did well than what the Dolphins did poorly.
He's Greg Rakestraw. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I don't know how much you watched because you were doing the post-game show with the Broncos, but they didn't look like they were that great, and this Colts team should have beaten them in December of a year ago, minus Jonathan Taylor's gaffe at the goal line. So how do you size up that matchup 4 or 5 days away from it now?
Well, it was not lost on me, John. You probably heard me say this before, that the schedule makers, I thought it was intriguing that they hand the Colts the first 2 games of the year, A, at home, but B, against the 2 teams they were really competing with for that last playoff spot. Miami was 8-9 like the Colts were. And again, as you said, for all the problems the Colts had last year, they had the Broncos beat in Denver and literally gave the game away in the middle of December. So this is very much a litmus test for the Colts again. How good are the Broncos? I'm not sure. But do I think they're a team that's competing for a playoff spot? Yes. Just like the Dolphins should have been going into week number 1. And if you can beat 2 teams like that and have that tiebreaker, they're waiting on you 3-4 months down the road. It's never a bad thing for this football team.
It's Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Week 3 now is in the rear view. Week 4 coming up, and it has not taken Kevin Wright and Carmel certainly to have an impact with his coaching on that program and certainly in the rankings in 6A. Last check, I think maybe through 3 weeks up to number 3, somewhere in that neighborhood right now.
Right.
They're 3-0. I know they get Louisville Trinity coming up on Friday. What's the word from down in Kentucky with that high school program right now?
They're always one of the favorites in the state of Kentucky. And to be honest with you, I think if Carmel gets by that one, I think there's a good chance that they get through the rest of the regular season unscathed because they finish with Columbus North, who, again, is unbeaten and in 6A, but largely plays a 5A schedule because they don't have anybody, to kind of be 6A with, of that group, kind of further south. And then they play 4 consecutive MIC teams. They don't play Lawrence North, and they don't play Pike. The other 4 teams they would play, I think, are good, not great. So, and I frankly started doing the math on this after doing the Westfield game in the week 2. I'm like, you know what? Hounds might run the table for a while. And after winning 5 in 3 games each of the last 2 years, that's pretty jaw-dropping. Again, I don't think anybody is surprised that Kevin is having success at Carmel, but to have it so quickly And, they have won every game they've played so far by at least 24 points. I think even for Kevin's coaching skills, I think this is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's not lost on us either. Who else is unbeaten so far, including Brownsburg, number 1 in 6A, and Center Grove as well. But in closing here, I do want to get to Cathedral and Chittard coming up on Friday night. This Cathedral always goes through this gauntlet during the regular season. We know how good they historically are and how decent to incredibly good at times this matchup can be. How do you size it up for Friday night, Greg?
I think Chittard is really good, and typically when Chittard has been in 4A, they've been quality but not good enough to stay. I think now they are. I frankly think the 4A championship probably comes down to between them and Heritage Hills, who should see each other in the semi-state round. I think Cathedral is good, but I think they're a little down. I think they're a little down offensively. Now, again, you're right. Their schedule is absolutely rugged. Their one win is Ben Davis. I had Ben Davis on Friday night. Ben Davis is good, not great. Cathedral managed 8 points against them in week number 1. And, yes, I know it's week 1. You make a big jump from week 1 to week 2. What I'm saying is this. If there's a year where Chittard's going to get Cathedral, and they have some recent wins, not a lot against Cathedral, but if there's a year where Chittard can get them, I think this might be a year where that might be the case.
All right, you got to listen. I hope you're flattered when people call up and think you're me.
So I am, and I play it off that way. So we had 2 phone callers that said, "Hey JMV, I'm going to work in reverse order." The first guy or the last guy was in the 6 o'clock hour, and he is Phil from Andalusia, Alabama, and he asked that I refer to him as Phil Billy. And given where you and I are from, that seems kind of about right, for our speed.
Nice.
It was the first call that drew most of the attention on social media. And that was Lisa, who I think is one of your regular callers on the takeover.
Yeah.
Because she wanted to talk to you, thinking I was you, as much about the Colts and about the JMV takeover as well. And that is the caller that I felt appropriate at the end of it. I'm like, you know what? I've got this read for Oliver Winery. Probably now is the time to mention it. And so that is what drew pretty much the reaction you just gave right
That
there.
is professional grade from Greg Rakestraw right there, the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Where are you this Friday?
This Friday, so we, as ISC, are Brownsburg and Avon, number 1, number 9. But I've done this the last couple of years. This is the week I'm doing it again. I'll be waving to all your relatives in Greene County. I'll be trying to avoid ammunitions from Crane.
Yeah.
I'll drive by the Odin Meat Locker, but I am going to Hatchet Hollow for Washington and Princeton. That is my game on Friday night.
Well done. Greg Rakestraw going down the Redneck Autobahn coming up on Friday night and kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It is always a pleasure, man. We'll do it again next week, and I'm sure I'll see you this weekend and talk at you too.
I will talk to you Saturday night. Be good.
Greg Rakestraw, Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Yeah, 36 years from American Gladiators. Shout out to Larry Zonka. Or Nitro. Larry Zonka was a co-host of that. Mike Adamley, I think, was the host back then. Quick break. We return. 4 o'clock hour naked, right?
Jeff Rabjohns.
Jeff Rabjohns, I'm sorry. Jeff Rabjohns shall be clothed. And we'll talk about IU moving forward with Indiana State and then IU moving forward with Illinois, which should be a humdinger coming up in over a week. Jeff Rabjohns, top of the hour, and Nick.
It is Nick.
Nick Meinsdorfer.
No.
Kleindorfer. No, that's a hardware store in Bloomington.
Kosmiter.
And we're going to talk Broncos in the 5 o'clock hour. Bullseye Pass is coming up in the next 15. Sit tight for that. Don't go anywhere.
face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Rab John's coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. Nick Kosmider from Denver after he interviews the Denver mayor. I don't think that that's the appropriate order. I should come well before the Denver mayor. Hey, shout out to the Spreadability. Win Schuler Spreadability is back once again for the 2025 football season. They just do not want to move forward without us, Central Indiana. They love us. And you have shown in the past, you have embraced Win Schuler's Spreadability. Just make sure that as a part of any of your parties, tailgate or otherwise, or just hanging out and snacking. Heck to the yes, I'd put that on a Peapod in a second. Win Schuler's Spreadability. Make sure you tell us where it's located, too. I mentioned Gordon's Food Services in Greenwood is where I saw it. And if they're out of it, take a picture of it, send it to me so we can send it back and said, restock with Win Schuler's today. The Spreadability, Win Schuler's for the 2025 football season. JMV, you join Amazon as a Prime member to buy products for around $139 per year. That gets you free 1 or 2 day shipping on any order. Prime Video is included at no extra charge. So I have to...
Guess you got to invest in Amazon Prime, the entire service.
I like going to the mall. I don't want Amazon to... I like going to the mall. It's a social part of it.
You don't participate in Amazon deliveries?
If somebody sends something to me, yes, but I don't think I've ever sent anything to myself via Amazon.
Really? You've never ordered anything off of Amazon?
No, I go to the mall.
Actually,
I love the Greenwood Park Mall.
I sound surprised, but actually I'm not too terribly surprised by that
I like walking in the mall. The social experience. Think about, the reason why we all have these outgoing personalities as members of Generation X today is because of, in part, the mall experience. Remember when we got to talk to girls face to face? Right? And not on Snapchat?
I grew up in the Skype generation, so
it's all weird.
We didn't hang out in malls when I was growing up.
Face to face. That was nerve-wracking. Especially if you were me and you look like me on the left in that picture I just sent out on X. My big fat co-host.
And yet it's still the cover photo.
Oh, I know. I said my co-host clearly shops in the Husky section at Sears. That's a good question. Derek wants to know what happened to the PFF folks. 2 things. They haven't been on. This is the second consecutive year they haven't been on, right?
They just stopped reaching out to me.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know either if they trimmed some of the guys that were actually doing the interviews or if some of the guys got tired of doing it because I would say, here come the nerds before they'd come on.
Well, we would do a season with one of them.
Yeah, and I was very affectionately describing them as nerds.
But then they would get new gigs at the end of the season.
They
would move on.
It's weird. Nothing, Derek. All right, quick break. We'll come back. It's Rab Johns on the other side. IU, Indiana State on Friday, and then maybe one of the biggest games in a while, right, for IU against Illinois. We'll talk to Jeff about that and a lot of other things in the Big Ten. And Nick Kosmider from Denver in the 5 o'clock hour after he interviews the Denver mayor. Bullseye event passes. Let's do that right now while I'm thinking about it. Anybody want to go? 239-1070. If you want to go on Sunday, remember, the doors open at 1. You can watch the early games at Bullseye. All the early games at Bullseye, and then waltz over for that 4:05 start for the Broncos and the Colts. 239-1070. Number 9 is going to go on me. The Bullseye Event Center. All you can eat, all you can drink. DJ Skids, Kelsey Murphy, Laura Steele, me. BullseyeEventGroup.com. Number 9's a winner. Back with Jeff Rabjohns next.
And the beat goes on. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Bullseye passes all week. I mentioned you can actually go, because the doors open at 1. You can actually go and watch the early games. And then head on over to Lucas Oil Stadium. How about that? More passes on the way. You got to listen to win, too. Rab Johns, when he answers his stinking phone. And Nick of the Cosmiter talks Broncos after he interviews the Denver mayor coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. I've got lots of reaction, lots of response. Obviously, we started out to show the level of importance, more so than just starting 1-0 on the season and winning for the first time since 2013. In week number 1, just infusing some interest that clearly before the game was not there or was lacking. It was there, but it was lacking. You could see it. I'm not just making crap up. You could see it. Giving you a reason. 239-1070. I mentioned Rab Johns when he answers his phone. Steve's going to lead us here in the 4 o'clock hour, though. Hello, Steve.
Hello. How are you?
Steve, I have answered my phone for you, unlike Jeff Rab Johns, who has not answered his phone for us.
Well, I wanted to call you Greg and be smart, but I'll get back to it.
That's well done. Well done out of you, man.
Hey, so here's my question for you, John.
Yeah.
It's more along complementary coaching and the influence. So some of the old adages are birds of a feather flock together.
Yes.
Rising tide lifts all boats. And then one from a Greene County. I live down in Martins, Kentucky, so I can relate to this too, that you don't hook up uncomplimentary animals. You don't use a draft horse and a donkey to plow your field. You have to have two things that work together. So what kind of influence do you think that Lou has had versus maybe a Gus on not just Shane, but the whole coaching staff?
Well, and I want you to hang with me on this one, Steve, because I kind of brought this up in hour number 1. I thought you could tell with Kenny Moore and the holdovers, for example, those that have been through Gus or an era of Eberflus, with the added responsibility and what's being asked of them, you could see, I think, from the veterans around here that have been through it before, the enthusiasm of being able to play different roles, being counted on in different ways, and actually being a part of an aggressive process. They used to talk about it all the time, but it never really was. I thought you could see that. And again, I think we all understand that Miami sucks, right? They do suck until further notice. However, I thought defensively the Colts played a brand, a style that, simply put, we have not seen around here in absolutely forever, and what fans and the media and everybody had been shaking their fist about for a number of years now. I thought in game number 1, Lou Anarumo gave that to you, and I thought that his veteran players, you could see how excited they were about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to know if you had anything, how you thought it might have influenced even Shane to become more of the offensive mad scientist, since now he had a defensive mad scientist standing next to him.
I thought Daniel Jones influenced that, because you could tell that he has confidence and trust in Daniel Jones that simply he did not have in Anthony Richardson. I thought that was obvious.
Yeah, for sure.
Steve, anything else you got today?
Nah, I was waiting for, I was going to also lead with the Redneck Audubon, but you'd already hit that with Greg.
I did.
I haven't heard it in a long time, but that is outstanding
Do
stuff.
you still live in Martinsville right now?
Right. Calling you from between Paragon and Martinsville as we speak.
So is that cop, that Martinsville cop, still sit like in the median right there under the that overpass that goes to Walmart by Martinsville High School? He sits because there's some of that tall grass that sits there, and he sits there like Barney Fife would and Andy Griffith.
I thought you were going to talk about on 67 as you head down towards Spencer, and it goes from 2 lanes down to 1, and it's like big group.
Let me tell you this. There is nothing better than getting blown by on when it turns 2 lane and goes back to 1 going up that hill. If you're going up 231 right there, to get to the T on the road when you turn right and go to Gosport. Oh, yeah, getting blown by. No, but there's normally a cop that sits, there's like tall grass right there. It's under the bridge that goes from like Martinsville High School to the Walmart and the restaurants over there. And sometimes it reminds me, there's an episode where Barney Fife is on a motorcycle and Andy Griffith, and he's got like this bush taped or glued to the front of his motorcycle. That's kind of what that reminds me of when they do that there.
You're amazing. All right.
Thank you,
John.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. See, I got to find somebody who believes that because there are so few. Thank you, Steve. Shout out to Steve in Morgan County. I did want to mention this. I know I-69 in Grant County, last check, this is going back to last hour, there was some sort of accident, and it was stopped in both directions in Grant County. That's I-69 well north of here, but just a thought. Hey, JMV, I got a comment. Yes, the Dolphins seem to suck, but that's exactly what a good team does to a bad team, embarrass them. That is absolutely on the mark. Completely agree. Yeah, I'm not going to short sell it. I'm not going to slap rock it because they need it and you deserve it. And we'll figure out what the hell happens on Sunday after it happens on Sunday. But I'm not going to come in here and say, well, the Dolphins do suck, so this is why this happened. That's for somebody else to yip-yap about. I liked what I saw across the board. And do you know how long it's been since we've been able to say that? Indeed. Shout out to my good friend Gritty from Vanderburgh County with a check-in. Evidently, the Charlie Sheen documentary is out tomorrow on Netflix. Netflix for the machine. I think I'm all about that.
I'm assuming it's covering all of the insanity he went through in the 2010s.
Like the Tiger Blood stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, he was the highest paid television personality at that point in time on 3.5 Men.
Two and a half
3.5 Men. 3.5 dudes. Actually, it's like 2 dudes and some kid that kind of looks like me in my old pictures right there. No, 2.5 Men. He was the highest paid in the television industry at that point in time. And then he flushed all that down the toilet. Got bounced.
Well, I saw some interesting article headlines with him over the last couple of days. I don't know if we can bring it up on here, but
and then he had to usher in the Ashton Kutcher era. I mean, seriously, I would rather have the 2 that came in when Bo and Luke Duke left because of contract squabbles back in the 80s. Coy and Vance. Remember they brought in Coy and Vance on the Dukes of Hazzard? That was better than Ashton Kutcher on 2.5 Men.
I think a lot of things are probably better
Cousin
than Ashton
Oliver
Kutcher.
on the Brady Bunch was better than Ashton Kutcher on 2.5 Men.
I'm just not a big Ashton Kutcher guy.
There are just some situations that don't work, and that's not it. Hey, JMV, Zapp and John Ritter in the movie Skin Deep with the glow-in-the-dark condom scene. You know what? Those were like new on the market, I think, back in the late 80s. The glow-in-the-dark condoms.
That was all the craze back then?
Yeah, I still have a bunch of them still in the package. Still in the package, still in the box, still in the crate.
Vintage.
Would you like to see my vintage condoms? JMV, this is from Derek. I'm right down the street from that Goodwill on Geist. You might be wearing some of my stuff. I guarantee you this. If you've dropped off, especially if it's like Polo or something like, if you drop that off around Nora or Geist, then there is a high likelihood that I am wearing your old clothes right now. True story. There is a likelihood that I'm wearing your old clothes.
We should turn that into a contest. Dress JMV with your old stuff.
I wonder if I'm wearing... Hey, every day I wear something new that I buy from Goodwill, we'll say, was this yours? Kind of segment here. Is he wearing your old clothes?
Look into the YouTube stream right now and tell us if JMV is wearing your old shirt.
This comes from the shop, so this is actually new. Because Brian brought that by late last week, which is, by the way, on sale, this Indiana State University baby blue classic shirt. The shop, Broad Ripple Caramel and in downtown off of Mass Ave. Am I wearing your old clothes? At JMV, Greg played off the callers very well. He was JMV for a few of them. Well done, Greg. That's from Mike. Greg is an absolute professional. BT says, and by the way, it was great to see BT, Twin Peaks in Greenwood yesterday. You go to the mall in hopes that you'll see Stacy and Lindo working at the pizza shop. I went to the mall in Bloomington because there were chicks from Bloomington North and Bloomington South and Edgewood in the mall. And that's how I met them. Now, they didn't have the time of day for me, but I met a lot of the girls from those schools going to the mall. It was an incredible social awakening. I was used to, and good for me, I was used to being heard the word no often, so it was no longer like a rite of passage. But that's why I went to the mall back then. And I still like it today. Like walking around, like hanging out. Nothing wrong with it. JMV, love the fact that you proudly rep your alma mater with that T-shirt. I do the same thing with Ball State apparel. Guess the morning host is embarrassed of his school as I never see him in IU. Bowen never wears IU colors? Is Bowen embarrassed of IU? I don't think so. He just loves Notre Dame football, I think. Now, well, I say this, and you probably will feel the same way. I do this for Indiana State because nobody else will. Simply put, nobody else is going to do that. But I'm here for them always. Hey, JMV, I live in South Florida in a little fishing town with a big drinking problem. Wait a minute. I'm going to go ahead and read in front of this to make sure I'm not walking into something here. Fort Pierce. I am basking in our Colts victory glow this week. Love the show, Bonnie. Well done, Bonnie. See, my thought was, I was reading this, Bonnie, and I got up to the drinking problem, and I thought for sure it was going to say, it sounds like you have one too. But no, thank you. That's how it should be. We'll get along to the Broncos and preview it with Cosmiter coming up here after he talks to the mayor in Denver, Colorado in the 5 o'clock hour, and then we'll break down how it goes with the Broncos after week number 2. But for what it is worth, and all we have to go on right now, it's week number 1, that was as good as you could ask for. Seriously, you could not have written that or scripted that out better. As good as you can ask. Very happy about that. Very happy for you guys. You guys put up with a lot of crap. A lot of crap. All right, so we did watch last night, and this is the era in which we live. We now see quarterbacks that basically stink and are about ready to be ridden out of town on a rail. And really, you could almost flip the script last night between J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams started out 10 of 11, and he was on target, and he was scrambling around. And the Vikings, simply put, didn't have any offensive answer, didn't have any rhythm whatsoever. And then you get into the fourth, and the script was absolutely flipped. J.J. McCarthy can't do this, and he stinks. And then all of a sudden, J.J. McCarthy is the guy, and now it's Caleb Williams everybody is skeptical about again. Man, that is such the way that we live. I didn't think there was anything that was more descriptive of that than what we witnessed last night at Soldier Field in Chicago. Literally for 3 quarters, a guy that basically could do nothing. And then the awakening in the fourth. And then a guy that had played really at the beginning throwing the football and decision-making appeared to be on top of his game. A complete 180. Last night was descriptive in so many ways. And I think you can look at a lot of the games in week number 1 in similar fashion. And really, how about the Sunday night game? Because what that game showed me, and probably should have shown you as well, is the levels in which those two teams are on, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, it is a different level than most others, at least right now. We'll see if injuries impact, others progress to that particular level, but it looked like two teams just starting September, just starting a new season, that were on a different level than everybody else, two quarterbacks that are on a different level. However, it also goes to show you just how far you have to go to put somebody away. The thing I thought about more than anything else is, man, you don't, if anybody wants to get mad because they feel like you're piling it on, the hell with that person. Because that person is not one that has been beaten in a fashion or seen some kind of incredible come-from-behind win at their expense. That goes to show you that you have to keep the hammer down the entire time. And if you don't, in some form, some fashion, you leave that door open, somebody's going to break it down. And especially if that somebody is at home and has MVP caliber talent, has skilled position players around them, they're going to break that down. JMV, you look around week number 1 of the NFL season, I think I was most impressed with the Green Bay Packers at home against the Lions. Two things stand out. One is Jordan Love and the balance that Green Bay has offensively. The other is that maybe Dan Campbell and the Lions are in a position now where they've missed a possible championship window. I don't know if I come away with all that after week number 1, but Green Bay was really good. And the Lions were, for most of the game, lacking offensively for real. The injuries continue to pile up on the San Francisco 49ers, although they are 1-0 with a road win over Seattle. We mentioned the Broncos not looking great. They put up 20 against the Titans in surviving in their home opener in the Mile High City. They come here coming up at 4:05 on Sunday. But really nothing great. I just think you look at it as in even a year ago. There wasn't much transferable from last year to this year with this Colts team. But the one thing that you can look at for week number 2 is the fact that they should have won that game. And then things could have been different in a lot of ways. Yeah, the Giants still stink. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, of all teams, get by in New York over the Jets. I think people thought, including myself, I haven't seen, what did we finish in our Pigskin Pick'em? James, did you look that up, the Pigskin Pick'em at all?
Sorry, say it one more time.
Where did we finish on our Pigskin Pick'ems this week in week 1? There's no way I could have done well. I know we have 2 of them right here, so it's probably tough for you to look at. But
I don't know where you are because I'd have to look through and try and find your name. And there's
I don't think I've made up my own team. It's like a weird name right now, like ESPN.
Oh, one of those auto-generated
1 zillion or something like that. Yeah.
But anyway, in the standard one, I am rank 134. I went 10-6 in the first week, but I guess a lot of other people did a lot better than me. And it seems in the Spreadability League, my entries did not register, so I'm 0-0 right now.
Oh, cool. Okay. Hope that's not the case for me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people may have tripped on their blank with Mike Vrabel and the Patriots in their home opener against the Raiders. I don't know how many people may have seen that coming. Full disclosure. Geno Smith, by the way, 24 of 34, 362, and 1 TD. What a renaissance in his career. And that week number 1 was fantastic for him and the Raiders.
In our standard league, we do have somebody who went 16-0 throughout the first week of the season.
Well, who might that be?
BK Like Football is the name I see.
That is not BK Like Football. You know who that is? That's Brian Kelly of the shop in Broad Ripple.
Is it really?
BK Like Football.
He went undefeated in week 1.
Brian Kelly of the shop in Broad Ripple, Carmel, and on Mass Ave evidently went unbeaten That is well done. Not a BK right there. Just go ahead and stop it and give him the trophy. JMV, I was kind of curious last night in watching the game and comparing. The Bears go with Colston Loveland at tight end, if you remember. The Colts ended up with Tyler Warren. Loveland, 2 catches and 12 yards. So Warren had much more of an impact. And if you listen to Michael Pittman Jr. after the game, as we talked to Stephen Holder yesterday, could have had even more of an impact. Now, he was impressive. So Eric Loveland, 2 for 12 in that Bears game last night. All right, quick break, and we shall return. This is from noted friend of the show, Ben Tenen. Are you ready for this? He always adds something incredibly special. You ready? Can't help to say you are a very weird-ass dude. Hang out in malls to me, high schoolers, OMG. You ego is ridiculous, LOL. Ben Tenen. I don't hang out in malls. I do go to a mall. I like the Greenwood Mall.
That guy's spelling is something else. His grammar is something
You
else.
You ego is ridiculous.
That's not the same guy that said something about the
it's the same
guy.
He digs in pretty deep. But it's all good. It's all good because I kind of enjoy what he says. Plus, I think it equates to me even more so because clearly he is a tremendous dumbass, and that's what I expect. So that's cool.
I mean, you can't tell by the way he types.
I think I have found a noted listener and contributor that is an incredibly large dumbass. Yes, I found it. It's all good. Quick break, we'll come back. Where's Rab Johns? No locale?
I have heard nothing back.
No locale on Rab Johns as of yet. So we'll go to Denver coming up in the 5 o'clock hour for you as well. Alec Pierce later on this week. We got a couple of road shows for you as well, Thursday and Friday. I shall explain coming up. More Bullseye Event Center passes. Remember, they open up at 1 o'clock coming up on Sunday, so you can watch all the early games, the early afternoon games inside the Bullseye Event Center, all you can eat, all you can drink. Skids with the entertainment, too. And if you see her, shout out to Kelsey Murphy, the celebrity chef who always puts together the fantastic food. Got more passes for you in front of the Broncos-Colts Week 2 matchup coming up on Sunday to get you into Bullseye coming up on Sunday early afternoon. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Number one on this date back in 1977. A Taste of Honey and Boogie, Oogie, Oogie. NFL's finding Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter $57,222. That's a hell of a price tag for spitting on Dak Prescott on Thursday. The league also says the game he was ejected for will serve as a one-game suspension. Quote, after talking to the Eagles, the NFL, and the NFLPA, Jalen has decided not to appeal and focus on the Chiefs game. That according to Adam Schefter, who got that information from the one and only Drew Rosenhaus. The spitting stuff, and I think Florida had a player do it over the weekend too in college football that I think led to a loss, did it not? They get beat by South Florida this weekend, Florida did. What is the level of jackassery that it would take to spit on somebody else? Somebody had asked me this the other day, and I really don't consider this often, but it was asking me. So, what happens if, have you ever accidentally spit? Yeah, for example, which there's really not an accident, you can't do it, but if you're riding a roller coaster back in the day when I'm riding the Beast and you spit, it's going to end up hitting somebody back there unless you're in the final car. Yeah, just don't do it. And like that, Jalen Carter's a big dude, so it's not likely a lot of guys are probably going to put up a little whip ass on him, but somebody needs to. Normally, anybody else, that's what's going to happen. Let's just face it, you or I, that's the outcome. I just never understand, even in this high-level, high-caliber competition, how things like spitting on your competition or hitting your competition in the nuts, how you draw that conclusion as, yeah, you know what, maybe I'll just go ahead and spit on this guy. Yeah, you know what, maybe I'll go ahead and hit him right between the two, one of the two right here. Let me split the difference. Anybody's thing, even if you are the most outrageous, outlandish, fired-up competitor of all the time, when does it occur to you to spit on or kick in the nuts the competition? That is something I'll never understand. I am assuming you would agree with me on that. Some crazy stuff to me. Some crazy stuff I absolutely won't get. The text line, 317-239-1070. If you want to call in, you can at 239-1070 as well. And we can talk. JMV, I've already broke out the checkbook at St. Francis with our wager for the Colts and the Patriots better record. Colts look solid this week. Imagine a win against the Broncos and a win against the Titans. Colts fever will be high, like that of Pacers fever. Chris G. Oh, yeah, that's the same thing. Kevin's Beer Wench. Thank you. Nick the Quaker says, I can also do a Rab John's imitation if you need me to. Does anybody want to? That's a hell of an idea. Would anybody like to call in and pretend like they're Jeff Rabjohn so we can actually have him on the show?
Well, the best Jeff Rabjohn's impressions right now would be for them to give me their number, I call them, and they just don't answer. That would be the best impression right now.
If anybody wants to call up because he has not shown up, it's been 36 minutes now since Jeff Rabjohn has not shown up on the show. Would anybody like to call 239-1070 and act like they're Jeff Rabjohns on the show? I think that is what we'll start doing for those that say they're going to show up and then don't.
That'd be great,
just have somebody call up and be that person.
If anybody wants to work on their improv
I think that's
or
a hell of a
impersonation
plan I got
skills,
right there. It is.
This is your place.
Hey, JMV, here's the stat of the day. J.J. McCarthy, 64-3 since his sophomore year in high school. He is a winner. You cannot teach that. Much props, Matty Matt. The dynamic was so us today, last night on Monday Night Football. 3/4 of this guy sucks, and what are they going to do? And the Vikings made the wrong choice, and this isn't going to work. And Caleb Williams finally has it. He's 10 of 11 and throwing the football. Everything is great. And then the script massively flips in the fourth. And all of that conversation, all of that criticism happening in the first three changes stages, going from McCarthy to Williams. And now Williams is not the guy, and Williams has to go. And how can Ben Johnson deal with this? Incredible. JMV, I think somebody should call and pretend to be Butch. Actually, I wanted Butch to call in yesterday. We didn't hear from him, oddly enough.
He did not call.
Hey, Butch, if you're out there listening, call. People want you. Truex said there had to have been a second spitter. Actually, the initial spit was from Dak Prescott, but it was to the ground. Yeah, you know what? BT brings up a great point. So we got dudes spitting on other dudes, dudes kicking dudes in the package, and then dudes throwing fake wieners onto the floor of the field. What world are we ever seriously? What compels you? What club are we in? What club do you have to be a part of to spit, to kick in the nuts, or to throw fake wieners onto the field to play? I don't like this world. Somebody will have to explain to me what compels that sort of behavior. And obviously somebody's going to say, well, you know, it's the height of competition, and competition, you've never done that. Yeah, well, I've never, ever thought about going, yeah. Like tonight when I play, even in my low-level competition, when I go in and hoop later on tonight at Center Grove, I'm not going to say, hey, Rick Clark, come over here and go, you can't guard me. Or hit anybody in the package. Or I probably won't go up to the top of the West Gym and throw a fake crank onto the basketball floor. That's just me, I guess. I feel like I'm kind of competitive at 55. We got a Pseudo Rabjohns. Joining us now on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, it is Pseudo Rabjohns who is with us. Hello, Pseudo. How are you?
Hey, JMV, thanks for the great intro. Packages.
Hey, what would you like? Hey, Rabbi, I'll start right here with you. IU's football season to date has been what, to your estimation? Has it been what it was supposed to be, or you're looking for more here?
Well, I would say, the Hoosiers this week, the Sycamores, the mighty Sycamores of Terre Haute, pose a formidable challenge to everybody's BAC this weekend. Your thoughts?
I think that'll have something to do with it. That, I think, will play a role as much as the paycheck that Indiana State will be getting, not Jeff Rabjohns, from IU upon their exit on Friday night. It's not Jeff Rabjohns joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right here. Hey, I wanted to kind of stretch this out a little bit. Any other thoughts on the football program? Maybe some basketball thoughts? Not Jeff Rabjohns?
Yeah, the great news for all of Hoosier Nation right now, the big recruit up there in that place we call West Lafayette, drive north till you smell it, stop west until you step in it. They've got a recruit there in a three-point stance holding the basketball. I don't know what Painter's thinking up there, but they might really want to change some recruiting angles up there.
That is not Jeff Rabjohns on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I appreciate you calling in and playing that role of not Jeff Rabjohns. However, what you have done is you inspired Todd Meyer to sprint down the hallway and join us coming up in a minute with that Purdue comment.
Oh, I'm sure he's going to be lurking outside the studio.
I can't believe I have not seen him fly past the producer's door right
He's
here.
just waiting for us to go to break now.
Not Jeff Rabjohns is good. I'm going to start doing that, though. People that don't show up, we're going to have impersonators of that person.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah. That was not Jeff Rabjohns on the show, of not pigs.com. Hey, JMV, kids don't learn how to communicate because they don't have to go to the mall to meet girls. They don't have to call a girl's house and have the dad answer the phone. All of this was great education. Damn straight it was. You got turned down right to their face and right to your face. Or at least I did. I don't know about you guys. JMV, if you like gently used but really nice clothes, a great price, check out Newman's Men's Consignment Store. That's 65th in College. Been going there for 15 years. Newman's Consignment. See, I like Goodwill is anywhere between $5 and like $9 for pants. Now, I mentioned coming up on Thursday, we're going to the Ale Emporium in Castleton. That is our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. Right across the parking lot from the Ale is one of the greatest Goodwill locations of all time, James.
Well, there you go. You can get a couple drinks and then go get some new pants.
Beautiful. Get some new clothes. Win Schuler's Spreadability is back for 2025 in the football season. Make sure when you find it, you send us a picture of where you found it because we've got to put the Win Schuler's signal in the air for everybody to have. Sharp bacon and cheddar, original, jalapeno pepper. Make sure Win Schuler's is a part of your football existence coming up this football season. And when you find it, make sure we all know it. Look for it today. That's Win Schuler's Spreadability in your favorite grocer's refrigerator.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, not Jeff Rabjohns. Got some response here. Hey, by the way, in our Pigskin Pick'em, this is the one where BK liked football. That's Brian Kelly, was 16-0 on the week. And this is our league. This will get you, I got to say, the sampler package, which you guys know equates to the bar restock, right? You guys know what you get. You've been with me long enough. You know how I roll. But Brian Kelly was evidently 16-0. Sam Myers was 15-1. I know Sam. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 15-1s. I was 11-5. 11-5. So I am 110 right now.
Looks like in our spreadability league, the best record is 14-2 right now. That is B. Heldman and then a bunch of numbers. But
now I think I did better against the spread than I did here, and because this is the straight up pick 'em, I think I did better against the spread.
Can you look and see what your record was on the spread?
Son of a gun! You're going to ask me to do a lot of things that I'm incapable of doing right here, James. Oh, hell. That's a good question. I don't know where this is. I know that I did do them both, and hopefully I did get it on both right here. I'm just showing up, I think. Yeah, I'm just showing up. I'll try to find the one where we're against the spread. Because if you remember, some people were outraged and say, hey, I want to do it against the spread. And so we opened up another one that was against the spread. But I know 11-5 in this one. I'll have to look up the other one when I have a little bit more time than what I have right now to do it. I guess that's all right. Nick says, not Jeff Rabjohns may wish to slow his roll on Purdue hoops trashing. Not Jeff Rabjohns called in because the real Jeff Rabjohns evidently hasn't. JMV, screw. Now, listen, this is not me making fun. I like Jeff. Screw Rabjohns. That dude blocked me on X because I posted something with the hashtag of Pigs is last. That's great. JMV, next time you go to the Greenwood Mall, can you let me know what kind of deals they have going on at the Beeper Depot? I will. JMV, Graham from Avon here. Favorite guest moment of all time is still when Rick Venturi fell asleep mid-call and you continued to ask him questions while he was snoring. That wasn't Rick. That was just a random caller, wasn't it?
That has happened with the random caller before, yes.
The random caller has fallen asleep. Man, you know how your show might be when the caller falls asleep while on hold. That is not something I put on the resume tape. Hey, JMV, that Raider game effed me out of an 8-team parlay. Only loss, new pal JR. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I think among the week 1 games, that may have been the biggest surprise. And when you look at those that had the best weekend, Geno Smith had the best weekend, didn't he? 24-34, 362, 1 TD on the road for the Raiders. A lot of people thought that Mike Vrabel would stir the echoes of Belichick, and that didn't happen, at least in week 1. Gutshot Greg says, I'm looking forward to the not Rick Venturi. That's mean. Love Rick. Rick is actually my favorite guest of all time. JMV, I hope BK put $10 on a parlay. All 16 would have paid out nice. Yeah, hey, Gluckman, I don't know if he did or not. I'll have to ask Brian Kelly if he did parlay that up. 16-0 is nice. Hey, quick break. We shall return. What's the guy's name again? I'm going to look this up again. Did you send me this via email?
I did, yeah. I sent you an audio clip and everything.
Would you really? Is it audio or just? I got to be better than that, don't I? Cosmiter, Nick Cosmiter. Who's he write for?
The Athletic.
Nick Cosmiter of The Athletic at about 15 after. So he's going to go Denver Mayor and this show, which obviously states the level of importance this show might be. Nick Cosmiter, all right, he'll break down exactly how Denver looked because around here we all said, well, they didn't look that special. We'll talk to Nick about that 15 after 5 and more. Bullseye Event Center passes coming up too. Stick and stay. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
They could be miles off course.
That's impossible. They're on instruments. This is going to be a real sweat.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Sweetwater ripped through the Denver Bronco defense for 179 yards on just 20 carries. And in doing so, he established a new NFL record for total yards gained with 15,517. The fallout from Peyton's run towards Jim Brown's rushing record seems to have triggered the Bears' early season offensive explosion.
Man, that is old school NFL films on this date in 1984. And if you remember correctly, that was the year prior to Super Bowl 20 and the season of 85 when the Bears won it with one loss, and that was in November in the Orange Bowl in Miami. On this date in NFL history, Walter Payton, the late great and my favorite football player of all time, becomes the NFL's all-time leader in career all-purpose yards, at that moment surpassing Jim Brown's mark of 15,459. The Bears won that game 27-0 over the Denver Broncos. That again, September the 9th, 1984. It's weird, and obviously in a blowout, they had two different, I'm just going to see who was the quarterback. Jim McMahon, and that, if you watch Monday Night Football, they were celebrating the 85 Super Bowl 20 championship team on the field, and they highlighted Jim McMahon down there. But this highlight that was just played on NFL Films, is that Bob Avellini? That's number 7 right there, too. Clearly the backup quarterback went in. Pretty cool. This date, September the 9th, 1984. If you remember, the Bears surprised Washington at RFK in their first playoff game and then ultimately lost. I think it was 22-0. Did they not, to Bill Walsh and the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC title game? And then Bill Walsh, with Guy McIntyre in the backfield. He was an offensive lineman, which sparked Mike Ditka the next year to utilize the rookie William the Refrigerator Perry in a similar backfield fashion. Jason Ellis writes this: Dennis Miller rolling with the JMV and JMV background story was the perfect mix of old and new shows. Still the best interview you ever had. I do remember Dennis Miller being on this show. That's from Jason. Sorry I missed your show last week. I didn't know you had Gavin Newsom co-hosting. Nice. So who's Gavin Newsom?
It's the governor of California.
Do I look like Gavin Newsom? There's a picture right here. I'll send this out. Do I look like? I had no idea who he was until Jason just sent this. Gavin Newsom.
I can sort of see the resemblance.
Right,
I don't think it's like a close resemblance, but I can see it.
Who's got better policies, me or Gavin Newsom? Because I don't know anything about him.
I'm not getting into policies on
this
show.
I'm not. My policies are. You know what my policies are.
Yeah. I'm following your policy by not getting into policies on this show.
That's my policy. Policies suck. JMV, Rick Venturi is my favorite guest of all time. Must listen to radio when he is on. Jeff Seltzer. Shout out to Jeff. JMV. Peegs was much better when Mike Pegram ran it. It's gritty. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Rab Johns. He just kind of disappeared right there, didn't he? All right, 239-1070. Before we get to Nick Kosmider of The Athletic to cover the Broncos, the smartest, well, I will have to suggest this. Maybe there's smart A and smart B because Todd Myers down the hall. He is the executive producer. But notably, the most intelligent Boilermaker fan is in. It is our good friend, Garen. Hello, Garen. How are you?
What's up, JMV?
How do we like the start of the Barry Odom era in West Lafayette, Garen, so far?
I'd say pretty good. They right now the most impressive stat is they are second in fewest penalties in the country, whereas last year Walters and that crazy crew, I think they averaged 11 a game. And 2 of those penalties were that silly disconcerting signals thing that they're trying to emphasize. So really they've had 2 penalties the entire year in 2 games. Now granted, both of them kind of baby seal clubbing type opponents, but with where Purdue was last year, I am very happy to see just good, sound football. And what I'm puzzled by is this weekend I saw the spread for USC is 21, and not that I'm going to put a bunch of money on Purdue to win straight up. I'm obviously going to go to the game. I'm going to enjoy it. But, what have we seen from Lincoln Riley's team other than they blew the crap out of Missouri State, and who the heck knows last week to tell us anything?
Yeah, and that's just kind of going on preseason reputation right here with Purdue, right? That's what that's about? And the only way you have to get over on that is prove them otherwise, I think, in this case, Karen. I think that's expected,
Sure.
Right? Is it not expected?
Well, and I get that, but what I really liked about the coaching staff is SIU seemed like they had a pretty good quarterback. I think he'll probably be a guy that portals up to a major conference next year. They screamed down the field those first 2 drives. Last year, that staff would have been lost. They'd probably been down 21 at the half. They wouldn't have caught back up. 3rd drive of the game, that they made an adjustment. There were 3 points the rest of the game. It was in hand, and they ran the ball. And just like that, they went from 150 yards in 2 drives to I think it was 150 the next 2.5 quarters. And those are just all small little things, but they put together that I think this is a really good, sound, pragmatic staff. And I don't think they're going to set the world on fire this year, but just what a breath of fresh air, at least so far, to have, a reasonably good football team you're not embarrassed to watch.
Can we call this the Graham Harrell Bowl on Saturday? You want to call it that? Hey, I tell you what, hey, Garen, prove to me, and again, this is non-Boilermaker related question here, but you know how impressive you will be if you can tell me right now where Graham Harrell, the former offensive coordinator of both Purdue and USC, is presently coaching.
I didn't know he got another gig. Did he go back to Texas Tech? I don't know.
Well, he's close. He is close. He is close to Texas Tech. Not too far down the road from Lubbock.
Was it at a high school?
A little bit bigger than a high school. I don't know how much bigger than a high school.
I missed the
he
news.
is.
Went there,
He is at Abilene Christian.
Okay.
The offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach for the Graham Harrell Bowl, USC and Purdue. That's where Graham Harrell is coaching this season.
I want to say I saw that school's name across one of the schedules, so I think they even play a Big Ten team coming up, so that'll be something entertaining.
Graham Harrell. Yeah, it's weird. He was always a great conversation, too. I had him on when he was at USC, and then when he was at Purdue. He was always interesting, but, man, he has bounced everywhere, absolutely everywhere over his career.
Well, and I remember when they hired Walters, I wasn't a fan of it initially because I was thinking anytime they've hired an offensive innovator, that's been one of the keys to winning Purdue football, Braun being the most recent guy. And then the areas where they haven't won is when they didn't go that direction. And when they hired Graham Harrell about a week in, I'm like, okay, I'm all in. And in my head was the guy setting all the records for Mike Leach, thinking the guy throwing for Mike Leach was going to call plays like Mike Leach did. And unfortunately, he didn't, and was one of the boringest had one of the boringest schemes ever. They couldn't adjust anything, and it was just mind-boggling. And so then you come to the current staff with Henson, who was a quarterback coach under Lincoln Riley at USC. He's never called plays before. Lincoln Riley called the plays, and so I still was a bit of heartburn until we saw what the offense is. But so far, I like it. And it's been much better than what we had under Harrell, at least more creativity. I like seeing him go downfield. It's been great seeing Brown be able to just whip it down there and put the ball in place. And, yeah, we'll figure out a lot Saturday for how legit of a team this is this year, and could this be somebody that would compete for a bowl. But overall, just it's crazy that in this era of college football, you can add 61 new players. Say that out loud. 61 new players.
Yeah. Agreed.
in one off season and have a brand new team. And at least I'll dig those rules right now because last year sucked.
Well, yeah, like I said, just anything. And I'll give Boilermaker fans credit because they still come out. They still support in West Lafayette. Hey, by the way, Graham Harrell, offensive coordinator, Abilene Christian, 35-7 loss in their opener at Tulsa. They beat Stephen F. Austin 28-20 last weekend. They get TCU in Fort Worth, upgrading the schedule mightily coming up this weekend. That's Abilene Christian, and we have found Graham Harrell.
There you go. Well, two more notes. You gave a shout out to the fans. That has been terrific to see. I think there was 57-5 there for Ball State, and then it looked like it was a full stadium on Saturday night, and that's coming off a 1-11 year, which was after a 4-8 year. There's not many programs that would support a team that way, and that's why you just got to give the fan base something to root for to keep them. And I very much think that we're gonna have that here coming up in the era. And the last thing was Jeff Rebjohns equals Gavin Newsom, and they're both ass clowns. I'm out.
Now, I know Jeff, and I don't think he is. I just didn't know who Gavin Newsom was. I know who Darren McGavin is. I know Gavin McLeod. You know who Gavin McLeod was?
I've heard the name.
The skipper on Love Boat.
Oh.
Yes, Gavin McLeod, who was also a part of the ensemble cast of The Mary Tyler Moore Show. I knew Ozzie Newsome, who got me yelled at in the press box by DaCosta, that red-ass nut general manager of the Baltimore Ravens, who was their...
Ozzie Newsome got you yelled at?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Yeah. It wasn't what I didn't do anything. But as the story goes, when the Ravens were here, James Hurst of Plainfield High School was playing left tackle for the Ravens and didn't have a great game. Conrad Brunner, who worked for us, was sitting next to me in the press box, and he knew that I had James on the show all the time and was kind of making light of James just as a joke to me. Well, the red-ass DaCosta and Ozzie Newsome were right above us, and apparently Ozzie Newsome took offense. So at the half, I sit down there and don't move, but Chris Hagan is in line to get hot dogs to eat at the halftime up in the press box, and the red-ass, who's the general manager right now of the Ravens, cornered Hagan and started screaming at him in the hot dog line.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thinking Hagan's me. I'm thinking I said it. Hagan said, I don't know what you're talking about. I think you're nuts. And he was nuts and probably is nuts. So after he screamed at Hagan, he comes back over and says, his quote was great. He said, no, you're that bald guy that sits down. And this is what really motivated me to go to WeGrowHairIndy.com when Eric DaCosta said, no, you're that bald guy sitting down in the front row of the press box talking about James Hurst. He said, no, I'm not. So he took Hagan over there, and I'm unknowingly eating a piece of sugar cream pie down there. And Bruno was not there at the time. So he comes over and goes, oh, no, that's not you. Never apologized to Hagan. And then Avis Roper, who was the media rep for the Colts, came down and said, what did you say up there to get Ozzie and this DaCosta nut all riled up? And I said nothing. And it was all Conrad Brunner. Now, here's the most interesting aspect of it. There was an apology given, never made to me, even though it was motivation for me to go to We Grow Hair Indy because I didn't want to be known as that bald guy in the front row. But DaCosta and Ozzie Newsome, this is the best. They did apologize to Hagan. They sent Chris Hagan an autographed photo of Ozzie Newsome as an apology. DaCosta was riled up. He's nuts.
Sounds like it.
Man, Hagan's saying, all I'm doing is getting a hot dog here, you idiot. What are you yelling at me about? It's a great moment. Great moment in sports history at Lucas Oil Stadium. All right. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, we'll see if history will be made in week 2 quite like that. The Broncos off to a 1-0 start, much like the Colts. 2 teams meet coming up in week number 2, 4:05. That's late afternoon. And you can, of course, catch it right here on The Fan. Nick Kosmider of The Athletic writes about the Broncos. Now, I'd heard, Nick, you had a conversation with the Denver mayor prior to this. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I just got off the phone with him actually. Big day in Denver. The city and the state and the Broncos all kind of announced that the team has chosen a preferred site outside of downtown Denver to build a new stadium that they hope can be done ahead of the 2031 season. Still a lot of work to get to that point, but sort of putting their aspirations public today. So kind of a big deal here in Denver today.
So what kind of stadium is it going to be? Will it be open air?
The goal, the vision for the ownership group is to have a retractable roof
so
stadium.
they'll end up hosting a Super Bowl with this, right?
That would be certainly among the things that they're looking at being able to do with this. Super Bowls, Final Fours, stuff that you can't really have in Denver in February or March or whenever. So yeah, that would elevate them to being kind of one of those cities that has the opportunity to host those events.
Hey, Nick, I'm curious here, and because we're anti-weed in this state, you're pro-weed in that state. Is there any weed tax that might be paying for this new stadium venture in Denver?
I don't think so. That I think most of the early weed tax went. You'd have to ask somebody much smarter than me about this stuff. But was kind of education driven for most of that stuff early. All of this is going to be private funding, which will of course I would assume ultimately include permanent seat licensing. That's typically what new stadiums do. There hasn't been any firm announcement from the Broncos about what that will look like. It's still some ways off, but the idea and what they released today, no new public taxes in order to fund this project.
And Nick Kosmider is very surprised that he comes on this show and gets asked questions about marijuana.
It's part of being a Coloradan, man. You get used to it.
That's awesome. Nick, I'm going to start right here. We'll go back to last year with that matchup in Denver with these 2 teams coming up in a moment. But a lot of people around here describe Denver and their win over Tennessee as not an impressive venture. You being there and watching that win over Tennessee this past weekend, what did you see out of this team?
Well, that description applies to one side, or I guess 2 phases of the ball. It does not apply to the defense that in their first time out was every bit as good as advertised. This is a unit that, it was one of the league's best last year and has gotten even better this offseason. We saw it in camp that this was a group that was just ready to get after it, and 6 sacks, gave up only 133 yards of total offense. And of course they were playing a rookie quarterback, making his first start on the road. Very difficult, situation for a guy in that position. But they nonetheless were dominant. Offensively, it was a different story. 3 turnovers by Bo Nix as he started his second year. It was only the second. He only did that once as a rookie. Just a lot of kind of sloppiness, confusion early on in terms of some of what they were bringing in and out of the huddle. So it just was not a clean performance. They had a fumble on a punt return. So again, the defense did enough to not make them pay for those things. It's not often that you can be -2 in the turnover department and still win by 8. But it was a testament to just how well they played defensively on Sunday.
Do they want Bo Nix to throw it 40 times a game?
They shouldn't. They should not want to do that.
It didn't look like he was good at it on Sunday.
No, I mean, again, look, that was kind of the other interesting part of this whole thing was they spent the offseason adding new additions to their running game. They drafted R.J. Harvey in the 2nd round out of Central Florida. They signed J.K. Dobbins later in free agency in June. So completely renovated the backfield. Nobody that was active Sunday was active week 1 last year. And they also added to change the scheme up a little bit, adding more outside zone concepts to what they were trying to do. So you thought they're going to kind of unveil this, and 17 plays into the game, they'd only run 3 times. Sean Payton said Monday, hey, like this is on me. I have to make sure that we're getting to a point where we're not going away from what we intentionally try to do as we come into the game. So I would expect that to be a little bit different. Yeah, but you should not want Bo Nix, or really almost any quarterback, this early in the season to be chucking it that much.
Is Vance Joseph state of the art as a defensive coordinator?
Is he what? I'm sorry?
State of the art in the NFL as a D coordinator?
He's been pretty fantastic for them. It was funny, like his third or fourth game as defensive coordinator for the Broncos. He gave up 70 points in Miami, a 70-20 loss. And he of course was a head coach here for 2 years. That didn't go well, and the public sentiment here was like, here we go with Vance Joseph, and ever since then, it's been phenomenal. They've done a really good job identifying particularly talent along the front seven. I think that's been the biggest change. They have just been able to find guys, whether it was Zach Allen in free agency or developing Nick Benito into one of the league's best young pass rushers, and of course drafting Pat Surtain, the defensive player of the year, helps too. But he's been really good in terms of mixing up and playing to his personnel. Like on Sunday, for example, they played 6 defensive backs, 21% of the time. That was more than in any game last year. And part of that's because, hey, we have this first round pick in Jahdae Barron, who we really like. We already have a nickel in Jaquan McMillan, who has been in that role for us and does really well. So let's just play a bunch of dimes so we can get them both on the field. That's kind of what he's been good at doing, is adjusting to the personnel that he has, and they're just really rolling on that side of the ball.
Nick Kosmider from The Athletic covers the Broncos. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I believe the stat was, you could correct me if I'm wrong, 5 times across or starting and having drives in the Broncos territory were the Titans. And regardless if you're talking about a rookie quarterback or a team that's not highly regarded, what the defense was able to do in holding that team to 12 points, considering where they were most of that game offensively, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was, and that was, I think, the most impressive part of it that you mentioned. You were right. 5 different drives started in Denver territory, including a couple right outside the red zone, and all the Titans had to show for those 5 drives was 9 points, 3 field goals. One time they took over in the fourth quarter after Marvin Mims muffed a punt. 2-time Pro Bowl returner, doesn't do that very often, but muffed a punt. Titans recover at Denver's 24. At the time, they're only trailing by 1. And so you're thinking, man, at the very least, they're about to get a field goal and take the lead and really put the pressure on Denver. Instead, the Broncos had back-to-back sacks award for a total of minus 27 yards. And all of a sudden, this golden opportunity for Tennessee becomes a punt. So that's the kind of they just did a really remarkable job of kind of like stealing up when their backs were against the wall in a way that just kind of goes to show, I think, how much they know that this kind of is on them. It's on that unit. If they want to really contend, that unit's going to have to lead the way each and every week.
Hey, Nick, what do you think about the Colts? I don't know how much you have gotten into the Colts in that matchup late afternoon here coming up on Sunday, but your impression, if you did pay attention at all, to that win the Colts had to start out this season, and really on the defensive side of the football with Lou Anarumo as the DC, and maybe most importantly, Daniel Jones in his first effort as a starting quarterback here in Indy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the game from last year and even thinking, like the way that Shane Steichen, manages and calls the game, like you can tell that it's really, they really know what they want to try to do. The problem was in that game last year when Anthony Richardson would throw the ball, you wouldn't know what zip code it was going to end up in, and so that makes it kind of hard, I think, to have anything consistent.
They still don't either. So yes,
it's still traveling somewhere. Yeah, that was like, just as a quick aside, that was like one of the more entertaining games, just because you just did not know. Like he was the most freak athlete ever, and had the power to do like something insane in a good way, and then also turn around and do something insane in a bad way. And sometimes those were on back-to-back plays. So it was definitely interesting. But I thought watching that, like, hey, if they can kind of, whether it was him to get him going or whoever else, and clearly when you look back at what they did on Sunday in demolishing the Dolphins, it was like, hey, we have competency at quarterback, and if you can just avoid the mistakes in this league and distribute the ball to guys who make plays, you're gonna give yourselves a chance. And I think the Colts are just going to do that a lot more frequently this year. They won't be an easy out for anyone because of that.
Hey, Nick, before I let you go here, we appreciate your time, but I am curious the level of expectations around Denver about this Broncos team with Sean Payton this season.
Well, Sean Payton up to them. I think going into this year, obviously the Broncos were a team last year that wasn't expected to be very good, and they end up making the playoffs. They win 10 games. and they get a performance as a rookie from Bo Nix that had you encouraged that, hey, this is the guy going forward. And so that, I think as the offseason began, the expectation was, okay, let's take another step forward. Maybe win a playoff game, compete for the division. And then Sean Payton comes out and says, I've had about 6 or 7 teams that I thought were capable of winning a Super Bowl, and this is one of them. And so when you elevate that as the head coach, like that's what people are going to now hold it to. Like they believe internally that this can be a championship contending team. I don't think I'm quite there yet because I haven't seen enough consistency out of this offense to think that this is a team that can compete with the Ravens and the Bills and the like in the AFC. But their defense is absolutely dominant. And so if that offense can come around in due time, you can kind of squint and see it. But that has become the expectation because Sean Payton himself kind of put that on their back.
Well, hey, Nick, here in closing, the AFC West, the AFC is one thing, but first things first, the AFC West is going to be nuts this year.
It is, and it absolutely is. And I think you saw the game Friday night from Brazil. That was, I think, a preview of just what just about every game is going to look like, because even if the Raiders are somewhat probably short on talent here in the first year of the Pete Carroll era, like they're, again, going to be a far more competent team than they were under Antonio Pierce. And so, especially with a real quarterback in Geno Smith instead of what they were kind of shuffling around last year. So there's not going to be an easy out in the AFC West, to your point. And, so it's crucial for Denver on a game like Sunday, to find other wins where they can get them.
He goes from the mayor of Denver, Colorado to, well, me here on the show here in Indianapolis. Nick Kosmider of The Athletic covers the Broncos. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, Nick, thanks for squeezing us in on this Tuesday afternoon. Safe travels getting here, and maybe we'll catch up in the press box on Sunday. Thank you.
All right. Glad to be with you. Thank you, guys.
Nick Kosmider on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We've got the Harrah's Hoosier Park Race of the Day, 50 in betting, 50 in dining, courtesy of Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. That is coming up in about 10 minutes. And remember, the spreadability is back for 2025. Central Indiana, when you find it, tell us all about it in pictures. The spreadability is Win Schuler's spreadability. And the variety of cheeses, original cheddar, sharp cheddar, cheddar and bacon, and jalapeno pepper. The spreadability of Win Schuler's back Central Indiana in 2025 with 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Bobby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Nick Kosmider was good, covers the Broncos. No weed tax. Private funding, retractable roof. I told you, anytime anybody goes, no matter the climate, with that, you know they're going to get a Super Bowl. So why the Colts got a Super Bowl, and to me, unless one of these days further down the road they build another stadium, the only Super Bowl that they will have. But, man, it was great. We had a blast while we were here, didn't we? Zero question about that. Alec Pierce later on this week. Yeah, I should mention our Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots, James. That's coming up on Thursday. The Ale Emporium in Fishers. That is near Geist. And Bud Light Blue Friday. We have Broncos and Colts tickets to give away on Friday. It's me hanging with Tommy S. and our great friends from Zinc and Bud Light. Coach's Tavern downtown. So make a note of all this, especially if you don't have tickets to the game. Hell, I'll tell you what. To a winner of those tickets on Friday, I will also get into the Bullseye Event Center, too. How about that? There's the ultimate combo. So Thursday and Friday, Ale Emporium, Fishers on Thursday, Bud Light Blue Friday, Broncos, Colts tickets, Coaches downtown. That is on Friday. Meantime, 239-1070, and Billy is up next on the show. Hello, Billy. How are you, buddy?
JMV, how you doing today?
Billy, I'm outstanding. Thanks for the ask.
Hey, man, I can't wait until the Ale Emporium and then Coach's Tavern this at the end of this week. It's going to be a great time. Everybody should come on out.
Wait, man. I'm going to add to my wardrobe at the Geist location of Goodwill. It is all good later on this week, my brother. All good.
You betcha. Hey, for those of us that were around at the time back in '91, and this is all credit to the late Jim Irsay when he was general manager, he was instrumental in bringing Eric Dickerson to the Indianapolis Colts when the Los Angeles Rams would not pay Dickerson.
That was a Halloween game, 88 is what you're talking about?
Oh, 88, yeah, the Halloween game.
Yeah, the Halloween game. Go ahead. Sorry, Billy, go ahead.
Well, that was a game that it was on Monday Night Football,
yes.
and it really put Indianapolis on the map. It was in the old Hoosier Dome. It was just a really electric environment. But Eric Dickerson, for those that didn't get a chance to see him play, was one of the great running backs of all time.
And one of the bigger horses' asses too, I think, by what they say. Yes.
Well, I've heard that as well. But
he was all of it. He had it all.
Yeah, he did have it all.
Yeah.
And coming from SMU, he and Craig James and Coach Ron Meyer, who ended up coaching the Colts, were instrumental in getting SMU's football program terminated and then suspended for a couple of years and everything because the recruiting was so dirty down in Texas at that time, as well as other places, obviously. But he was just such a great running back, and you look at, and he also had Albert Bentley with him, who was also a very, very good back. But that Halloween game against Denver was one that never forget. And
did you go to that, Billy, in '88?
I did.
That's awesome. I remember I was watching that. I was a freshman at Vincennes University, and I watched that at 9th and Busserin. That's where my apartment was in Vincennes, Indiana, in October 31st, 1988.
But that was the game that really put the Indianapolis Colts on the map, and I remember back at the time, people were just befuddled by the fact that Eric Dickerson would leave the Los Angeles Rams to come to the Colts, and it was just a great time in our history. He was here for 4 years.
He could have run for like 300 yards in that game too. I think he got pulled, did he not, in the second half of that game?
He got pulled in the third quarter.
Yeah, he could add 300 yards rushing if he wanted.
But he was one of the all-time great running backs and everything, definitely for the Colts. And but we'll talk about more about that at the Yale Emporium and at Coach's Tavern at the end of the
brother, I cannot wait to see you out this week. Thank you, Billy.
You betcha.
Yeah, Vincennes University, James. You ever been to 9th and Busserin?
I'm sure I have passed through there at some point.
My apartment at 9th and Busserin, Vincennes. And then on Bunton. I lived on Bunton in year 2. JMV, my wife thinks it's the funniest thing that my childhood clothes came from a section of the store actually called Husky. It's from Pete. How far have we both come? Husky. JMV, phenomenal transformation. I have the what for JMV's new self-help book? Oh, Cottage Cheese and You. I guess I do kind of look like this Gavin Newsom guy right here. You see that?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a similarity there. You're kind of both doing the similar hair.
Listen, if you could separate him from being a politician, would he be cool? Because you separate me from that, and I'm cool as hell.
Well, we don't talk politics.
First of all, I don't even pay attention to it. And that's true. You can say, well, you just don't do it because you don't. No, I just don't pay attention to it. It's a pain in my ass. And you know this. I don't do a lot of things that, to me, would be a pain in my ass. I'm 55 years old, and I'm just not going to deal with that stuff anymore. Any of it. If it's going to be a pain, it's going to be a hassle, I'm likely not going to get involved. So would he be cool if not for politics?
I can't really say for certain. I've never really listened to the guy talk. I've never really heard it. I know he does.
I had no idea who he was. I knew Gavin McLeod.
I think he has a podcast or something as well. They may talk about non-political things on there, so he might be a decent hang. I'm not really sure.
God, everybody in the world has a podcast now.
Honestly.
JMV, have you mentioned 60 years ago today, September the 9th, 1960, Vin Scully made what's widely considered a perfect call to Sandy Koufax's perfect game? I do remember that. Wasn't around for it, though. But I do remember it. Vin Scully. That is from Jim McCann in Southern California. JMV, you don't want to be compared to that guy. You do have better policies. I think my policies are great. I don't know why people, I could Pied Piper my policies and probably get a groundswell of people on board with my policies. And I think you guys all know my policies.
A real bipartisan coalition you're talking there?
Yeah, Michael. Want to join my coalition? All right, we got 50 in betting, 50 in dining, courtesy of Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. You guys know it as the Harrah's Hoosier Park Race of the Day, where horse racing continues now through November at Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. I want somebody to win. Every day at JMV 1070, we put out a list. You pick a horse, you could win. 50 in betting, 50 in dining, courtesy of Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. And here it is, your Harrah's Hoosier Park Race of the Day.
It's cool. Consider me Miles Davis.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, your Harris Hoosier Park race of the day. Steve is the winner. Did you happen to hear the winning horse, the name?
I did.
Do you know what Mr. McBeevy is?
Not a clue.
I'll double back and tell you exactly what Mr. McBeevy, who Mr. McBeevy is in a second. Mr. McBeevy paid Steve $11.20 on a $2 bet. The $2 exacta was $42. The 50-cent trifecta, $36.50. So 50 in betting, 50 in dining to Steve. Courtesy of Harris Hoosier Park race of the day, where horse racing continues through November. You pick a horse Tuesday through Friday on this show, and you can win 50 in betting, 50 in dining from Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. Do it every Tuesday through Friday. It's your Harris Hoosier Park race of the day. So, Mr. McBeevy, all you old farts out there like me will completely exactly know what I'm talking about. Mr. McBeevy was a character in an episode of the Andy Griffith Show. Do you guys remember the background of Mr. McBeevy? He was a lineman for the phone company that befriended Opie, and Opie at the time had been having imaginary pets and friends, and both Andy and Barney thought that Opie was making up Mr. McBeevy. And Opie brought home a quarter, supposedly from Mr. McBeevy, which concerned Andy, his father. Then Opie brought home a hatchet from Mr. McBeevy, which concerned Andy even more. Andy felt that Opie was just completely making up Mr. McBeevy out of nowhere. So he went into the woods for a walk to think, and then said, Mr. McBeevy. And Mr. McBeevy was up in one of the trees and came down the tree from putting up phone lines. Mr. McBeevy from the Andy Griffith Show. That is October the 1st, 1962, I believe, that episode originally aired.
So this is an actual character.
Mr. McBeevy.
I just thought this was a funny innuendo name.
Yeah, the guy's name was Carl Swenson. Carl Swenson. Mr. McBeevy. I think he went on, he was in Little House on the Prairie, too, I believe, right? Yeah, he was Lars Hansen. He owned the lumber company on Little House on the Prairie. A little background there, if you've asked, on probably more than you ever wanted to know about Mr. McBeevy. Win Schuler's. Make sure you find that your favorite grocer's refrigerator today. The spreadability is back for this football season. Win Schuler's spreadability and their variety of cheeses you love. Win Schuler's. Hey, Andrew, jump in. You got 5 seconds to talk here. What you got?
JMV, I appreciate all your thoughts. I love the show. I just wanted you to know I heard your shout out to Gavin McLeod. I'm going to enjoy me a little bit of Love Boat or some Mary Tyler Moore tonight. You should do the same.
Me too. Love Gavin McLeod. The skipper, the captain of the Love Boat, Gavin McLeod. Hey, James, Gavin McLeod was taking part in a lot of heeing and sheeing back in the late 70s to the mid-80s.
I'd hope so, as the captain of the Love Boat.
Buddy. Hey, shout out Nick Cosmite of The Athletic, Greg Rakestraw, and not Jeff Rabjohns on the show today. Back with you tomorrow at 3. James, great job out of you. Well, back with you tomorrow. Get you set for the Broncos and the Colts beginning at 3 on The Fan. Have a great night.